Hey everybody, Neil Belchenko here, and today we're going to do something a little different. So I've been scouring over the rigs submitted for the Atlas Mountain Race, and I've definitely kind of collected a bunch of stats, as you can see here. Stats about bikes, bike type, tires, bike packing bags, and so much more. So in this video, we're going to kind of unpack all of these stats and share them with you. Let's do it. All right, so the Atlas Mountain Race starts today at 6 p.m. and racers are set to take on the 4th edition of the race. So this year, the racers will travel 800 miles or 1,300 kilometers from Marrakesh to Essaouira in Morocco. It has turned into one of probably the top 5 most popular self-supported ultra endurance races in the world, and it definitely shows with over 100 rigs submitted and obviously 300 plus participants. So let's just dive right into it. But before we do, I just want to take a quick moment to let you all know that this video is partially supported by Tailfin. Tailfin designs and engineers technical bike packing equipment for almost any kind of adventure. Innovation and quality are at the heart of what makes them tick, and their constant strive to create better performing gear means that you can focus on enjoying the ride. They offer a range of options from hauling your gear, whether you're taking on a big event like the Atlas Mountain Race or just escaping for an overnighter. So for more on Tailfin, you can click on this card in the top right corner or find a link below. So we did this exact same thing for the Tour Divide last year, and if you want to watch that, you can find it in the description below. Obviously, the Tour Divide is a much longer race, but the Atlas Mountain Race is certainly rougher around the edges and simply put, more technical. And looking at a few folks that actually raced the Tour Divide this past year and are also doing the Atlas Mountain Race, such as 2023 Tour Divide winner Ulrich Bartholomews and runner-up Justinas Levicka. Ulrich is sticking with the same drop bar BMC, while Justinas is going for a bit more comfort using a full suspension cross-country mountain bike. All right, so speaking of handlebars here, 83 of the 105 rigs actually came with flat bars, which definitely showcases kind of that technical level of the overall route. And as far as aero bars are concerned, the majority of folks are actually using aero bars, with 69 of them using them and 36 deciding not to. All right, so of the 105 rigs submitted to us, 90 have suspension forks on their bikes, with only 3 flat bar rigs using rigid forks. And of the 22 drop bar rigs, 10 are actually using suspension forks. And there are also 19 full suspension mountain bikes in the list, and that does not include the Trek Pro Calibers or the Lee Coogan Rampage Innova, those soft tails, which totaled 7. Speaking of the bike brands, there were actually quite a few different types. 46 different bike brands were represented, but there were definitely some prominent names among those brands, including there were 12 Treks, 8 Specialized, 8 Canyons, 7 Salsas, and Cannondale, Mason, and Orbea each had 5, and Scott had 4. And there was one beautiful tandem, this Salsa powder keg with S&S couplers. I don't know how they do it. It's pretty impressive. All right, so moving on to tires, and well, there were 12 different tire brands represented here and 7 different tire sizes. So for starters, the most popular tire size was either the 2.2 or 2.25 inch tire size, with 54 folks using that size, followed by 2.3 or 2.35 inches at 32 individuals. There were 6 folks using 2.4 inch tires, 5 using 2.1 inch tires, 3 using 2 inch or narrower tires, and only 3 people were also using 2.6 inch tires, which definitely was surprising on my end. And yes, 29 plus is not dead, but pretty close. We have 1 person using a plus bike with 3 inch tires. All right, so regarding tire brands, it's clear that folks really love the Victoria Mezcal. And I actually used them all of last year, and it is a super fast rolling tire, and that's probably why people are using them, but I definitely didn't love them a ton when it came to the rough stuff. I'm surprised it's used so much because of that. The braking and cornering definitely left something to be desired, but I guess if you're racing, you want a fast rolling tire. Anywho, 36 folks used some sort of Victoria tire combination. Most were using full Mezcal sets or Bardo Mezcal combos. There were also 25 folks using Maxxis tires, be it Ardent, Recon Race, or Icons, followed by 10 Continental tires, mostly Race Kings, 8 Schwalbe, 7 Pirelli Scorpions, which actually looks like a pretty sweet tire, 7 Rene Airs Fleecer Ridge tires, and a collection of others. And while I could have missed a few, I actually only counted 3 folks using the 27.5-inch wheel diameter, which certainly seemed a little surprising, but maybe 27.5 is dead. I don't know. And if you were all wondering, I counted 21 tan sidewalls, just for reference. All right, so as far as the drivetrains are concerned, similar to the Tour Divide, it's evident that there is a monopoly of sorts. You just go down the list here and you're gonna see Shimano and SRAM. And that's about it. SRAM had the most at 60 drivers, followed by 41 Shimano drivers. One single speeder is out there, which is kind of surprising to see so little. There's one roll-off hub and one 13-speed Campy driver. So speaking of speeds, most users were actually rocking a 1x, and most of those 1xs were 12 speeds. But there were 10 11-speed drivers, one of which was a 2x11, and there were 2 10-speed cassettes being used. One was used with a 2x, and that tandem, that salsa powder keg, has a 3x up front. So like the Tour Divide rigs, electronic shifting, it's pretty popular, although it's certainly not the majority, with only 37 of the 105 systems using batteries. I only saw actually 2 Shimano Di2 systems, and both of those were the GRX systems. And all of the remaining electronic systems were SRAM Access, with 9 of those being the new Eagle transmission system. Overall, nothing out of the ordinary here, but it's definitely clear that SRAM's electronic system is trusted, even after a few of the systems failed in the Tour Divide last year, including second place Tour Divide finisher Justinas had both a battery fail him and his derailleur by the end of the race. So when I started my role in, let's call it bikepacking journalism 10 years ago or so, one of the main goals was to highlight bikepacking bag makers' tremendous kind of efforts, which I still do today. It truly makes our little bike industry tick and makes each bike super unique. So the results from the Atlas mountain race were pretty interesting as far as bikepacking bags were concerned. There were not many completely outfitted kits from just one brand, which I think is pretty cool. There were 74 individuals using a mix of brands for their bikepacking bag kits, whereas the remaining individuals were loyal to one specific brand. Of those brands, Apidura ruled with 9 full kits, followed by Restrap at 7 and Tailfin at 5. So the majority of racers were rocking seat packs, and this is always something curious to me. 74 in total, with 20 folks using the Tailfin Aero Pack system and 6 using a rack and dry bag. And of course, there were 4 folks not using a seat pack or anything back there at all. Go fast, carry nothing. Yeah, something like that. And I think it's worth mentioning this new kind of Tailfin Aero Pack system looks really unique, a little bit more minimalist. So I definitely look forward to hearing a little bit more about that. All right, so finally getting into the demographics. 22 countries were represented in our Rigs Of series, with the most in the UK region representing 23 individuals. Second was France with 17 individuals, followed by Belgium with 9, Germany with 8, and Italy with 6. It's also awesome to see one individual from Morocco itself. Also, as far as the ages, I think this is pretty telling. The 30 to 39 age group occupied the most individuals at 45, with 40 to 49 being next with 23. Then the 50 to 59 age group with 15, 20 to 29 with 14 folks, 2 individuals at 60 plus, 1 under 20, and 4 folks that did not put their age in. This is pretty in line with the Tour Divide numbers that we got from last year. However, the 60s group in the Tour Divide was much higher, and there's only 2 in the Atlas Mountain Race. Pretty interesting. A few other findings that I noticed were that dropper posts were not very popular at all, with only 14 droppers among the group. I find this pretty surprising, but seat bags were mostly used and most are not dropper friendly, so there may be some correlation there. I also only counted 9 suspension seat posts, with most of them being of the Cane Creek variety, and roughly half of the group is rocking dynamo hubs, with 51 folks. And speaking of recharging, 8 individuals were using the new Garmin Edge 840 or 1040 solar GPS units, which is really interesting because, well, I've personally really loved the product and it makes a lot of sense for ultras, but we'll see how it actually works out for them. All right, so that about does it. Did anything stand out to you? Let us know in the comment section below. And we are going to do a follow-up survey to all of these racers, so stay tuned to that after the race. Good luck to everyone out there and have a blast. So if you like what you saw in this video and want to see more like it, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you want to help support us out a little bit more, you can do so by signing up for the Bikepacking Collective. The Bikepacking Collective offers a lot of awesome perks, including the twice yearly Bikepacking Journal, among other things. So to learn a little bit more about the Bikepacking Collective, you can click on the card in the top right corner or also find a link in the description below. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time.